Aye.
And it's just going to take a couple minutes to load the YouTube. I'll let you know as soon as that goes through.
Are you Mandy who just
I
joined?
am, and I had a lot of technical difficulties, but I'm good. Thank you.
Aye.
Hi.
Take it.
Everyone's called
line.
Dan Nash
We're
at
all
this
set.
meeting, apparently.
No,
So-
I'm good.
Okay, so David, it's all yours to start the meeting. You have a quorum.
Okay, good. So welcome everybody to the December 15th meeting of the Village of Mamaroneck Committee for the Environment. We have a couple of new members, which we'll get to you in a moment. But first, following the agenda, because of course we have to follow the agenda, I'd like to have a motion to approve the minutes of the November 2020 meeting.
You need to first, David, you first need to open the meeting by vote. Somebody,
Oh, I have to open the meeting by vote? We have to
yeah,
vote to open the meeting?
somebody has to move, somebody has to second, then you have to vote, then you can go on to the agenda.
My goodness, all right. I move that the meeting be opened.
I second.
Second.
All approve?
Aye.
Yeah.
All opposed? Okay, the meeting is open. Now, I would like a motion to approve the minutes for the November 2020 meeting.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, we're moving right along. We have updates from the November. Let's talk about the new CFTE members first. And I think maybe it'd be helpful for the veteran board members to introduce ourselves with one or two sentences about whom we are. And then we can ask the new board members to introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about themselves. Would that work?
Sounds
good.
Okay, so I'll start. I'm David Freeman. I am chairing this meeting in Ellen Silver's absence. I am in my real life, I'm an environmental lawyer with a New York-based city-based law firm. And I guess I've been on the committee. This is beginning my third year term. And my practice in terms of environmental law, I do a lot of work involving brownfields and Superfund. So who would like to go next?
I can go. I'm Dan Kushnick. I've just finished my first year. It's hard to believe it went so fast. My main interest is in the environment. It has to do with energy use. So I'm interested in energy use, and also it's been brought up about the harbor and how dirty it is. And so I've starting to investigate and research options to how we can clean some of the garbage that comes down the Mamaroneck River and into the harbor. And that's basically it.
I'm David Styler, and I'm in my 5th year here, and I have 1 more year to go. And I'm interested in our Healthy Yards program, and I've been working against leaf blowers, in favor of leaf mulching, and those are mostly my issues. So they mostly have to do with that, and maybe wildflower plantings, pollinator pathways, things like that.
Renee?
Sorry, go ahead, Renee.
Oh, sorry, I missed that. I'm Renee Crabtree. This is just finishing my first year on the committee, and I'm the secretary. So I've been the one taking the minutes, but I'm wondering if anybody else is interested in that role. I'm happy to let them take it over. But I'm very interested.
You do such a good job at it.
Yes, you do.
Thanks. It makes it really hard to contribute to the meeting, I find, because you're so busy trying to catch everything that's going on. But anyway, very interested in our composting program, trying to get more participation in that. And also the Healthy Yards project, I think is a great one that I'd like to get more involved in if we could ever get out there as a group in person and do some things post-COVID.
Em?
Christie?
Me? I'm
Or Lee?
I'm Liam Rob O'Hagan. I've been on the committee just under a year. I was filling out someone else's term, and I think I just got reappointed. I'm interested in, I wouldn't say I have an issue. I'm interested in all sorts of things. We've, been doing the food waste recycling, some of the pollinator pathway discussions we've been having, interesting. And I'd like to get more people to mulch their leaves instead of bag them. And also energy use issues, I think, as we go forward. And so Christy, was that your next, right?
Yeah, I think so. Christy Young, and I think I'm going on 2 to 3 years. I don't keep track that well, but I sort of jumped from the school district PTSA environmental committee to the village environmental committee. And I think that, what I would like to really try to focus on is educating the public in general, and as well, basic things like litter and public access are sort of the focuses that I'd like to. I feel like we're a bit hamstrung with this pandemic. It's hard to sort of get a foothold in getting anything accomplished, but I have hopes for 2021 to really hopefully get some grip on getting back to community cleanups and getting people involved, because that seems to be the best way to educate them.
Okay, I think all of the veterans have introduced themselves, so it's Mandy's and Debbie's turn.
You want to go first?
My name is Mandy Stikos. I've been living in Mamaroneck for about 3 years now, by ways of Brooklyn, New York City, and Queens. And I was an event planner for 15 years. I did mostly event marketing. And then I left after I got married to have a baby and started my own vintage rental company. I love marketing. I love social media. I love pollinators. Definitely. I have a lifelong love affair with the environment and nature. But just in this pandemic, I started gardening, which is crazy for me because that wasn't my thing. But I fell in love with the idea of native plants, and I just want to help. So if there's anything I can do, I feel like I could bring mostly all my marketing experience and event experience, and definitely social media, which I think that the committee needs. I looked up and there's some kind of Instagram. I followed it, but there's no pictures. I think it's called like Mamaroneck Green. Also didn't really make sense, but so that's the stuff I could do. So
We could definitely use help with social media.
yeah, I didn't really see much. I don't know. And then also I am a mom. I have an almost 5-year-old. So I'm very interested in educating the community on pollinators and the life cycle of caterpillars and butterflies and planting seeds and native plants. And I feel like the way to do that is through the parents and the children and inviting them out to events, because by default, you're never going to get an adult there just randomly, but you will get them there if it's an event for their kid to come and plant a seed and to learn about a butterfly. So yeah, and Noah and I have been helping lots of butterflies around here. So yeah, that's me. That's all I got.
Okay.
So I'm Debbie Sullivan. I moved here 5.5 years ago when my daughter started high school at Rhinebeck. She's graduated now. She would be at college, but she's home. But I just always, I grew up in the city and on the Sound on the other side in Long Island for summers. And I just always loved the Sound. So when I was looking for a place to move, I couldn't believe that Mamaroneck existed. So I love Mamaroneck, and I'm a kayaker, and I'm very interested in cleaning up the water. I've done a number of cleanups this summer and fall. I did not more in Rye because that's where I was keeping my kayak, but I'm going to keep it in Mamaroneck, I think, from now on. So that's one area I'm interested in, and I'm also very interested in a lot of the other things everybody's talked about. I mean, I just am very interested in doing something to help the planet, cleaning up the place, I live in a condo, so I can't garden myself really, but the use of leaf blowers and lawns here is horrifying to me. So I'm very interested in any efforts on those fronts. And the composting, which I've been doing, and I've been at the table a couple of times at the farmers markets and stuff like that to help out with that. So I did try to get people in my condo area I put out an email. I probably could use help with the marketing of my letter that I sent out, and just got absolutely no response, from people to see if they were interested in doing composting. So I did find 2 people who are already composting. So that's me.
It's a very eclectic group of interests, although there's some themes that seem to be common. It looks like people are interested in energy use, in recycling, a lot of gardening type things, pollinators, native plants. So there's a lot of good experience and a lot of interest in various different things. So we should have a very good year coming up, given where we are and the interests of the people around the table, so to speak.
David, you may want Amber to introduce herself.
Well, I would be happy to have Amber introduce herself.
Hello, hi, I'm Amber Novak. I am the planner with the Village of Mamaroneck, in attendance of these meetings. The planning department and the interests of the village are aligned with a lot of the topics that come up here, and we want to see how our department can be of assistance in these efforts, and also see where our interests and efforts align with some of the topics and actions and activities that are brought up in this committee. And so this is something that's just, I believe, newly started, the link with the planning department here with the environmental committee, but it's something that to me is very exciting. So I'm an urban planner and have my master's in urban planning from NYU. So I'm very interested, particularly with anything public space related, open space, and commercial corridor related, particularly regarding economic development. And personally, I'm also very interested in the industrial areas. I know there are some very unique industrial and public space linkages here in the village in our industrial area. One of which I think came up in our last meeting with discussion around the trees and the MTA connection there, that the train tracks. So that is me, and please feel free to bring up any questions, pose any questions, and if I don't personally know the answer, I will root it out for you and find out.
Thank you. And of course, you're familiar with the fact, Amber, I'm sure that we're in the midst of a comprehensive plan development. I don't know where it stands. Dan, maybe you can fill us in on where the comprehensive plan is, but we've been with the, I think it's Neil Desai.
Yes.
For about a year.
Yes.
That all has been put a little bit on hold with the pandemic, but I assume we'll get back working on that next year.
Yes, I've been in touch with Neil, and we have some meetings set up moving forward to get that draft to completion and published and out in the next few months, hopefully.
Great, great. And Dan, maybe you can introduce yourself, particularly to the new people on the committee, and your background, which is very interesting and relevant to what we're doing.
Well, I'm Dan Natchez, and I am the trustee liaison to the committee. I'm on the board of trustees. For my day job, I run an environmental waterfront design consulting company that designs waterfronts throughout the United States and overseas.
Okay. So in terms of where we are, so that's, why don't we talk about now going down the agenda? There's an item regarding updates from the November meeting. And I don't know who's going to take that, but I'm happy to defer to anyone who has an update that they want to discuss. So the two things on the agenda are village manager approved payment for a sign for the community garden. I guess there's nothing to add to that, Dan.
No,
I'm the,
not at this point. Not at this point.
I'm the community gardener, community garden liaison. So I haven't, there's nothing that I've done at all. Although I suppose that I did get in touch with one person who is eager to start, but I told him it's a little early. But
Yeah.
But that sign, who was, I think that Martin had talked about, Martin's an ex for the new people, Martin's an ex-member of the committee. But I think he said that he was going to get involved in this signage. I don't think it's a major issue actually, but we do have signs there, you know, at the, do you all know where the community garden is?
No, that was
It's
a good
right, it's
question.
right when you get off 95 onto Fenimore Road. It's right in front of you when you
Oh,
pull
really?
off the exit. And it's
Huh.
directly in front of you. There's a fence, and on that fence there are signs. There's an Emlyn Theater sign there, and a lot of times there's other signs. And right behind that fence is the community garden. And there are 12 raised plots.
Mhm.
And so we'll be starting, I'm new to doing it, but because the member who we used to do it is no longer around. He's alive, he's just no longer around. But so we're gonna really start working at it, I guess, by March and get people in, maybe February. So
What's going in the garden? What goes in?
whatever people want to grow. It's a vegetable garden,
Oh,
gardens,
okay.
not flowers. I mean, I actually assume, I just always assumed it would be vegetables.
Well, you should put flowers to pollinate.
Well, you know, we could do, these are very small plots though. You know, if you're gonna, we've talked a lot about flower. I don't really want to jump the agenda here, but we've talked a lot about, you know, putting in wildflowers in different sections of the village. And it's kind of an ongoing conversation, and it kind of comes and goes. And but pollinator pathways is like a big issue around these towns here, Larchmont, Mamaroneck, Rye. A lot of people sort of involved in it, but you know, really haven't gotten the village to really take it up much, because it's kind of a low priority, I think. But there are a lot of people who are doing it. There are lots of neighbors, lots of residents who have their own gardens. So anyway, as far as the sign goes, David, I don't know.
I think we lost,
I think we lost David.
yeah.
I think we lost David for a minute. I'm sure he's going to try and get back on.
And just while we're on that community garden, is there a sidewalk that goes from those gardens to the train station? Is that, or at least in that relative area?
Yeah, right. You can just walk. It's a long walk, but you can do it
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
you can go,
along Fenimore,
Hoyt Street.
along Fenimore to Hoyt. Yeah,
or you can go through the garden and along the,
the leather stocking trail.
well, no, it's this side of the freeway. I can't remember what the street is, but it gets you out on Old Mamaroneck Road and you can just walk down.
There's like a bocce ball court.
Yeah.
yes, back
But
there.
then
in
there's
the
quite a
neighborhood.
long walk down a residential street, which has a sidewalk on one side, I think.
Or you
And
could
it's
walk
not-
to Center Street, go over the bridge on the end of Center Street,
Yeah.
and then just keep walking till you get to Columbus Park, and there's the station. Why would you ask that, Christy?
Because public access to me is as much as, like maybe we put a sign on both sides. It just, it's.
Oh, I see.
If
Yeah,
it's accessible, I mean, yes, of course, cars driving are usually like, looking for cars and not looking around. And if there's, I mean, I think that the train, the public going to the train is minimal to none right now. But if you use it as a cut through, it would be interesting to just, maybe the train station, we point of information too.
What's the purpose of the garden? Does the food go somewhere?
no, this is for residents who want to plant
Oh, just
vegetables.
garden themselves.
Yeah,
Okay,
people who don't have plots of land.
got it. Okay, that's.
Now, in
great.
the past, we've had people from, who are connected with, I know this because I volunteer there, people who are connected with the community, our Community Resource Center. We have an
Okay.
organization that's in
Yeah.
that
I
area.
know.
So some of those people have taken over the plots. And other people too. It's just like, it's actually village-wide, people from
That's great.
everywhere. But that's like one place that is, historically, people have come from that, been affiliated with that group and have come from there. So they buy their own plants and the village provides water.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and they have it already set up and there's dirt and stuff like that.
How many people can garden?
Well, there are 12 plots.
Okay.
So has it been a problem getting people to use the plots?
No, it's just a matter of it's just a matter of a member of our committee doing it, that's all. And each time, and whenever, in the last few years, we had someone who's very committed to it and he did a very good job. And there were always people who took him up on it, took our committee up on it and got plots of land, took these plots and grew vegetables. But you have to make sure you make the arrangements first. You have to get people to sign up. And there are various ways of getting people to sign up. I mean, social media is one way, but also going to different, like, for example, just going to the center, Community Resource Center, and telling them to please publicize this. We've also had people sign up when we've had the committee every year throws what's called the Clean and Green in Harbor Island. And we do a cleanup. We are the sponsoring group that does it. And so we sponsor this big cleanup around the village, especially around the waterways. And at that time, there are people who come and sign. We have a sign-up sheet if they want to join if they want to become gardeners and join the community garden. So there are different ways of doing it. So, I mean, somebody, so somebody who would be good with social media could be, and it could reach a lot of people. That would be very useful. But there are only 12 plots. So
I was gonna
it's
say they
not-
have to apply, right? I mean, in case that there's a response, 12 is not that many.
No, but I'm sure the way it's been done is first come, first serve.
Yeah. Okay.
Welcome back, David Freeman.
Yeah, my iPad conked out, so I'm doing it on my phone now. I hope people can hear me.
We can
Yep.
hear you fine.
Great. So are we finished talking about the community garden?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so the next issue is the Dan Scammer plant resolution, which was passed. do we have a copy of the resolution that we can attach to the last month's minutes?
I think Ellen has it.
Okay, great. So why don't we talk about the 2021 goals for the committee, which I think maybe we should start with a question, and that is, we all got a copy of the village manager's memo about postponing active meetings in January, February of March for us and a bunch of the other village committees. And I'm wondering if it's worth talking about people's interest in having meetings of our committee, notwithstanding that memo, on the understanding that we may not be getting a lot of village personnel support for those meetings. And maybe Dan, you can talk to that issue and how we possibly could have meetings if we wanted to during that interim period.
The village staff is no longer available to run the meetings or host the meetings, you know, and do whatever the electronic hosting and, you know, sending out the notifications. If the committee is interested in meeting as the trustee liaison, and with my inability to be handle the electronics and being overly electronically challenged, I'm willing to try and help by hosting the meeting, you know, so that the committee can meet. The question is if you want to meet, and if you do, then we'll find a way of getting it done.
It's great. Is it just a question of hosting, i.e. somebody having a Zoom account, or are there open meeting requirements that we have to somehow comply with, even though we're not?
The meetings have to be recorded. They have to be, I assume we're on YouTube right now, Amber?
Yes, this is the village Zoom, the village
Okay.
planner Zoom account.
No, I understand we're on the Zoom, but we also are supposed to be on the YouTube.
Yes, we are live streaming to YouTube.
Okay, so both of those have to be handled electronically, and it has to be posted. And if people that are not on the committee want to attend and ask questions, they have to be allowed to do so. I'm happy to try and do it. Anything electronically is a challenge for me. I know on, off, and sledgehammer. I'm very proficient with the latter. But we're happy to try and do it. If the committee wishes to, you know, do that, and we'll make sure you comply with the various regulations.
So,
Well, I for one would be very much in favor of continuing to meet on our regular schedule. And so that's the first question, is do people want to do it? And then we'll just have to figure out the mechanics. How do people feel about that?
I'm good.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
I mean, by the time we get through March, it'll be spring, and anything that we want to start anticipating for spring needs, you know, time. So, and spring could open up a lot other doors.
Good point.
Okay, so maybe I should make a motion, be a little formal and move that we meet at our regularly scheduled times during
Can I
January,
suggest-
February, and
can I su-
March.
David, can I
Go.
suggest that it is the desire of the committee to meet, and we'll try and ask the village to try and help assist to make that happen.
Right. I mean, that would be the motion, is that we would like to meet, subject to our ability to work with the village to make sure all of the public notice and other requirements are able to be complied with. Do I have a second?
I'll
Second.
second.
All in favor?
Yeah.
Any opposed? Okay. So Dan, I would be willing to work with you, and maybe Ellen's the right person as the chair. But we'll talk to her and see, you know, you know, what mechanics we need to comply with and how we can do it.
I've been told that the liaisons are the only ones who can do it, but I will find out and we will communicate before your next regular scheduled meeting. So
Okay.
if you get notices for a January meeting, then you know you're meeting.
Okay, good. Well, good. I'm very pleased we're doing that. So having decided we're going to continue to meet, let's talk about what our goals should be for 2021. Anybody want to lead off?
I have a out of the blue conversation topic I'd like to address. Is something we've not really talked about, and after hearing Amber talk about what her background is, it makes me hope that maybe we try to approach this in a way that I'm not sure how to get. But essentially, we have this beautiful river that rolls through past the train station, underneath the bridges, and then down through the back sides of the neighborhoods and parking lots and out into the Sound. And it's, you know, it has attention for waste, to draw some attention to is its natural beauty, and it is not actually considered a destination formally. It is informally a destination for people that want to hang out by the water, but because there's no preset path, there's no establishment, there's a fence. You know, there's a lot of areas along the waterway, especially in the back of the neighborhood, which is mine, which is why I know I'm paying attention to this, but I know it carries on further, that I think people will go there to spend time, but there's no trash can, so the trash is left behind. You know, it's more of an illicit scenario because there's no picnic tables. So I don't think that it necessarily draws the right attention, but I think that I'd love to see if the village could recognize it as an attractive part of the community that should draw people to come down and be by the water and spend time by the water. It's refreshing. It's, you know, right now it's sort of just behind a parking lot and a pass through, and it, you know, it draws sort of people that don't want to be seen, I would say, want to go down. Plenty of access, and my understanding is a good deal of it is public. So I don't know where to go with this conversation. I'd love to open the door in 2021 and see if we could make it a public space, if we could extend it, make it safe for people to go and sit and have lunch down by the water, you know.
So I have an idea of where we can go with it, and it actually ties in with Amber's background. Why don't we take a look at what the comprehensive plan says about that area? And if it doesn't say anything, maybe we should try to get some comprehensive planning done, or have the Mamaroneck River, I guess it's the Mamaroneck River, right? Be part of the comprehensive plan, doing something with it to make it more attractive and more of a plus, as opposed to a negative or something that people don't even know about.
So one thing, you know, I would like to bring to your attention is that I do understand there's an industrial committee, I believe, and they had, as I understand it, retained a consultant to work on or draft. I'm not sure what stage it is at right now. It is in right now. A sort of like a plan or some sort of, you know, proposal or report regarding the IVZ there, the industrial business zone. I'm not sure what the boundaries are of that. This is something that my department is going to be looking at in the next few months as that comes together. So that's something that, you know, I'm happy to connect with the committee on. What I would say could be a next step would be, as you've said, looking at the comprehensive plan to see what is there that is relevant. And perhaps at this stage, it's drafting a letter of interest to the village that might, for example, detail what the interest is from this committee. I would recommend as well, this committee, it seems to have like a really strong interest and more robust capacity than other boards and committees in, more public outreach, and especially with what you're talking about with social media, looking at how and if you can gain certain support around, general ideas around this area, and hear what the feedback is. That might be a plan or an approach to start at this stage, collecting information around that area. As far as the details, I would just add looking into who owns what, and that's something that, as I would be looking at this document as it comes forward around the IBZs, would be looking at what the boundary of the IBZ is, where the city, jurisdiction ends, and where the industrial businesses and manufacturing businesses, etc. I think David, you raised your hand.
Hi. Dan Natchez knows everything about this, but he's just waiting for people to talk. But, we were originally slated to have been right now in the thick of a, what's the agency, Dan? The Bureau of, Army Corps of Engineer project to reroute the river through the park, to make all sorts of improvements right along the river, to scoop out some of the bottom, re-gravel it, change the sides. Wasn't that right, Dan? And they had already.
It was a dredge. It was a flood mitigation project that would handle working on the rivers.
Right, and it would have taken it would have gone through the whole length of the Mamaroneck River, starting up Mamaroneck Avenue, coming down, and the Sheldrake River. And it would have been like an enormous project, but as soon as the last administration came in, they nixed it because, we're Democrats. So they nixed it. And so they took away the funding for it. But the other place, that would have been dependent on that working because, every number of years, we're prone to get immense flooding here. You know that. So they can't really do anything down there in the industrial district until they take care of the flooding. So they're just those guys are just like trying to prime the pump. But I think a lot of that, but I think in the meantime, what you're all saying is really good because it doesn't look like anything's going to happen here for a few years. So I think that's a great idea. If there's any way to get to use public land to sort of improve our access to the river. And I think that's a terrific idea.
And I think what Christy is describing are, there are many, small stage steps that can be taken to create space, adding a bench, adding a garbage can, and incorporating that into whatever the sanitation collection is there, is like one huge step to get that space that doesn't involve a whole lot and can frankly, if there's an IBZ, does it have a similar collective purchasing power as a business improvement district where they might be able to retain some sort of sanitation collection? I don't know. Being new to this area, I don't know all of the what the situation is there exactly, but that's something that, if not now, could be a future possibility as well. When the municipality works with such a collective of businesses as an IBZ, for example, it might be in the business owner's benefit to have more public interaction, and the business owner may be, compelled to put in a bench on their own property. These kind of public-private partnerships, if you will, are things that municipalities, find strength in to slowly build instead of looking at there's this large project, that end result that we want. How do we get there? We don't have everything we need to get there right now. There are little steps that can be taken. So, in terms of the possibilities, it seems like there may be many. It sounds like it's a matter of connecting the dots between, what I know, what it sounds like, the village is fully aware of, and may be able to, connect with what the status of things older than my tenure here of 2 months.
So Amber, can I ask you
Yes.
one sort of concrete thing you could do? And that is take a look at the comprehensive plan and see what the comprehensive plan says, if anything, about the Mamaroneck River and the Sheldrake River in the areas we're talking about.
I can definitely revisit it with an eye specifically to this area.
And then we can maybe among us have a sort of a task force that is looking at things that can go into the comprehensive plan that can help to help to achieve our goals, whatever they may end up being.
And does everyone have access to at least the most recent draft, or is this something that? Oh,
No, I don't think we've seen a draft in months.
Gotcha. Okay.
So Christy, when you were talking about, what part of the river were you talking about? Columbus Park or the back of Phillips Park Road? Or
I mean, the only thing in specific that a lot of the details escape me. I know that specifically from the historical district neighborhood, which is mine, to the parking lot on the back of Mamaroneck Avenue, majority of it is public property. I don't know anything about ownership of any of the other ones, but I mean, this is just sort of like a dreamscape idea at this point. And my dreamscape idea is legitimate pathways that are safe for pedestrians, some benches or tables, probably some safety, because there are a lot of trees that might not be safe for public to go underneath in case branches fall. And then maybe some lighting, and then to be even extra safe, maybe a couple of throwable PFDs just in case, because if we're encouraging the public to go by the water, it's always a good idea to have, water safety. But other than that, I don't really have any concrete plan, any idea of where. I think anywhere that we have a waterway and public access, we should encourage it to become a destination. People come to Mamaroneck Village for lots of things. They come for Harbor Island Park. They come to the restaurants on Mamaroneck Avenue. They come to live because of the schools, because of the water access to the sound. But I think that the river is an extension of making this a destination for people from other communities to come.
yeah, I was down a couple of months ago down in, I think I was getting something in Miller's, and I was looking at that bit of river along the Phillips Park Road. I think there was a big fence because it's quite a steep drop off.
Well, the other side is navigable. I've gone, I don't know the names of the roads, but from the small park on the one-way street, you can navigate a good distance, almost all the way to Tompkins. And there's if you just follow the dirt paths where people go and you follow the line of garbage, you can see where the easy access is.
Right.
But there are a lot of trees down and a lot of overgrowth. So it's only certain times of the year you can actually get back there, but I've done it. And, it takes people who understand landscaping and who understand water safety, but it's a viable area that's been unexplored. And we don't need a lot of extra work right now because we all are dealing with enough until this pandemic is over. But in the same way that let's just keep the conversations going, let's find out what the problems are, let's see what the potentials are. I'd love to keep it on the topics as much as, and then you incorporate the pollinator pathway. I think this community, with traffic and safety should embrace walking, walk to your village, walk, having public access sort of brings the community together.
That's a great idea. So that's one goal. Anybody else have something that they'd like to see us pursue next year?
Okay, well, I guess it's a good time to bring up the harbor cleanup. So it started with a conversation, Martin brought it up about the Mr. Trash wheel that was in Baltimore Harbor. And it would go in the, down by the river, by the harbor, and it collects the garbage and stuff that comes down the river. It's an very expensive proposition. Stuart, he brought up, and Dan, I wanted to ask you and Amber, I've reached out to, William Long about this particular grant he claims that the village may have. I haven't gotten a response. I've reached out to him a couple of times. So
I don't know if you're aware of this, but William's no longer working with the village.
Okay, well, that could be why I didn't hear
Why?
back.
If you want to just forward that to me,
I will. Okay.
look into that for you.
And that was supposedly, if it exists, I think it was $150,000, probably for sewer grates and things like that. But if we could possibly use it, the same company has what's called trash cages, which catch the garbage, and then they lift it up hydraulically, and you can dump it into trucks. So I'm a kayaker. I started kayaking over the last couple of summers, and when you're out in the harbor, there's just lots of plastic bottles and a lot of crap out there. And this may be one way. Martin was going to talk to director shipbuilders to see if they had any ideas about it, but it just may be this trash cage thing seems to be about 110,000. He said we've tried netting, which the nets rip, and I don't know how you get down there to get the garbage out. So I'd like to see that that happening. And then I'm also pursuing, which I think we're going to try to bring up next meeting, about more electric vehicle charging stations in some of the municipal lots. As more people are driving electric vehicles, people come here for to eat out and stuff like that. Just to promote electric vehicles as well as provide charging stations. And there are options for the village to charge money to make money off the charging, etc.
Yeah, I'd like to actually, because I think that's a really important area, but there's a larger issue, I think. And maybe we can fold the electric charging stations into something a little bit more comprehensive. There is a new statute in New York called it is called the Climate Leadership and Community Participation Act. And it's a major step forward in terms of New York State's efforts to become carbon neutral. I think you have to, there's a requirement of 70% carbon free. I have the statistics here in a second. I had some notes on it. You have to be 70% renewable energy by 2030 and 100% by 2050, which is a very aggressive statewide goal. And one of the key things that is going to help either allow this goal to be met or not is the actions of municipalities. So I would be in favor of our trying to figure out what we as a village can do to align our goals consistent with the CLCPA, and find out what it is that we need to be doing so that we as a village can facilitate the kinds of policies and activities that are going to help make us a self-sustaining community that meets the goals of the CLCPA.
Right. I'm about the EV chargers. I attended a webinar, and Con Ed and NYSERDA are offering very generous incentives that almost pretty much pay for a fair amount of what the costs are to install them. And we're a low to moderate income zone, so there are even more incentives. So I met with somebody from a charging company who was part of that webinar, and he was willing to come on to the next meeting. I didn't have him come on this meeting because Ellen wasn't here, and he can talk about the incentives and, it's not like we have to use their company, but there are definitely, a lot of incentives currently, like $17 million available by the state, and I think Con Ed even more, to encourage municipalities. They did it in Armonk and Pleasantville. I know the mayor of Larchmont was on that call as well. So it's just a good time to sort of discuss it if the incentives are there.
So
Well, the incentives, good.
sorry, the company that is it ChargePoint, I think. They have
This-
the two.
This one
Right.
was Blink charging. I think there's a bunch of them out there, and I don't think the incentives are related to which company you use. They're just available.
Right.
So whatever company anybody would want to use is fine with me. I just felt it's important to take advantage of the incentives that they're offering right now.
Yeah, because they were in the, I don't know if they have a deal with the village, because they're the two ones in the
Yeah, in the garage,
lot.
right.
So I'm sorry, Dan, what are we doing as a village in terms of electrifying our fleet, if anything?
Well, we've just added 2 police cars that are both electric and whatever. So as the opportunities present themselves, they, are being implemented. Right now with the tightening of the belt, most every initiative has been put on hold.
Yeah.
Anything that costs money is on hold.
Well, that's understandable, although there is some money available through NYSERDA and through the Volkswagen settlement. So, there may be ways of being able to make progress in this without spending a lot of money that we otherwise wouldn't have to spend.
All right, I think that's accurate.
So one thing that's related to that, and Dan, maybe you can speak to this as well, although maybe this is also something that is on hold because of the pandemic. We are a climate smart community. We're certified as a climate smart community, but we are not. Are we registered as a climate smart community, but we're not certified as a climate smart community? And I'm wondering whether we and the difference is that being registered means we've taken a pledge to be a climate smart community, and being certified means we've taken some specific actions that meet DEC standards. And I'm wondering whether, as a goal for 2021, we should see if we can move closer to being a certified community than we are right now.
I think, for all of these initiatives, whether there are grants that are available or incentives that, can be obtained, to the extent that the committee is, willing and, to investigate them and come up with, approaches that they think would be, viable, that would be great. Unfortunately, most of the grants are participatory grants. And that means you have to, even though you would get something, with 75 or 50% being paid for by others, the village has to pay the additional. And right now, we are not going to be allocating monies for anything that is not absolutely necessary.
There's
And
no reason. There's no reason.
a lot of the things that have already been approved in the budget are been put on hold, even though they've been approved and budgeted. We're just not going to be doing them.
But you don't object to pursuing and getting information and trying to figure it out?
Absolutely not. And to the extent, the problem is that staffs have been cut, and there may be continued cuts in staff. That's not pointing any fingers at the planning department, Amber. Just village-wide at this point. So nobody knows what, how bad it's going to be. But we are anticipating that the revenues are off, expenses are not going down. And, there has to be ways of tightening the belt. So to the extent that any of the committees, this committee or others, can come up with, long-term cost advantages that can be put into a plan to be, implemented as, whenever time allows it to be done, I think it's great. And I think we would, the village would, I for one would endorse that and work hard for it.
Great. I think there are a number of things involving certification that are non-economic things. And what we'll do, I think, is take a look at some of the things that can be implemented without spending money, but could still get us closer to being certified as a climate smart community.
I agree with all this. One thing I was thinking about, the people remodeling the house up our street, they put in a geothermal heating. And I was wondering, when I looked at geothermal, it was kind of apparent that when you build a house, you're making an investment in some sort of infrastructure that's going to, be for 15 or 20 years. Like, is there somewhere in the building code that we can look at to try and make it that all sort of investments going forward are a little greener? Or is that too much of a hot potato?
Not a hot potato. Part of that has already been done. There are incentives for it in the code.
Yeah.
Making it mandatory creates a different set of issues to be dealt with. But I think if people can come up with constructive approaches, they need to be evaluated and see how they can be worked in. And I think that's where this committee can be, very helpful. For instance, there is the board passed a zoning change that prohibited any new building going on within 50 feet of, a river or the coastline. And now there is a desire to amend that to allow something to be done with a special permit. And the question, there are arguments on either side. Some committees have saying that there should be, a escape valve for improvements, and there are others who believe that, there has to be significant major improvements to allow anything to be done. So there is this, and then there are other people who say, it's my private property, you're prohibiting me from using it. So you have three different spokes. That's something that this committee can, if it wants, takes a stand or not. But it's those types of things and those types of initiatives that need to be evaluated and, looked at and, adjudicated one way or the other.
Yeah. I mean, if you're talking about what a community can do to implement the CLCPA, one of the two things that is really high on the list is building codes.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, and the other thing that I understand from the people that really have dug deeply into this is sustainable waste management, which is something we also have been talking about all along and probably should be part of our goals for 2021, because we've already made a big start in terms of food waste, but also the whole idea of composting, the way we handle leaf, the leaves in our village. That's a big issue. I mean, they're related. They're not the same issue, but they're related.
Yeah.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Oh, thanks. I think Dan mentioned Con Ed. Has anyone tried to get funds from Con Ed for any of the initiatives? Because I know that Sheldrake Environmental Center, they get funded for some of their smaller, I'd say events. A lot of it gets funded by Con Ed. So I was just wondering if anyone had ever tried to.
I don't know if I'm not sure of any program that the village has obtained funds from Con Ed other than what at the normal spring cleanup that they participate and give out,
Trees.
seedlings, for people to plant and, type of thing. But in terms of, taking on a specific project, I don't know whether they've done it. I don't know if anybody's gone after it.
Yeah.
That's a great idea, Andy.
Yeah, he mentioned the charging station, and I feel like Dan said something about Con Ed, but I feel like Con Ed wants their name out there and they want to be associated with things good for the environment because everyone just loves to hate Con Ed.
Well,
but-
I think that would be interesting for like a pollinator pathway. Who knows?
Yeah.
Because they, as Dan said, they do the clean and green and they bring stuff in there, and it's definitely good PR. It's a good idea to think about that.
I think it would be good to maybe tailor it a little bit more toward the committee's goals, not just letting them bring seedlings. Like, what kind of seedlings are they bringing?
Oh, no, no, yeah, it would have to be something like more organized, but still, if they participated, that's not a bad idea.
Does anyone have a contact there? Or I don't know.
The village is in almost daily contact with Con Ed, which.
I meant more like the marketing event.
No, I understand, but there's a protocol. You have the municipalities have a liaison and you go through the liaison, and
Okay.
some liaisons are more responsive than others and are more effective than others. They're, let's just leave it at that. In either event, I don't mean to discourage it. I think it's a great idea. And to the extent that anybody can identify a specific project, they think would fit into whatever Con Ed or anybody else's, programs would fit. I think, that's something that can be, developed if somebody wants to put it together and, say this is what, how much money they may have. This is what we might be able to get. Here's a program, here's an outline. We can take it and, run from there. But it takes a lot of, groundwork just to get it started as opposed to just the idea. It needs to be, really vetted and, mapped out.
Okay. Got it.
I think the idea of our committee deciding what we want to do and, having a plan to take to Con Ed is a very good one.
And we would back it wholeheartedly. But staff is on overtime, if you will, and overtime has been cut. So we can't load up staff with something to do. It's now up to the committees to do the legwork and get something, that's meaningful together. And then the village can, join in and, try to move it along.
I think there may be a benefit to seeing if we can figure out the kinds of things that Con Ed is interested or has typically funded. It would give us a heads up or a head start in terms of our own thinking. And I don't know, Dan, whether that's something that our liaison can ask or whether we should try to
Just
do
Google.
independently.
You could probably
just
just go on their website.
I
I
think
know what
this
they
is something
do
that the
at
committee needs to
Sheldrake.
develop.
Andy, are you volunteering?
Yeah, I know what they do at Sheldrake, so it won't be too hard. They sponsor, I went to a Mommy and Me children's program. It was like a 6 or 8 week program and they sponsored the whole thing. It was free, first come, first serve for I think like 7, 8 of us, maybe about 2 years ago. And they are constantly giving them money to do nature walks. And I could look around. I'm sure that they do things similar to those.
I think
I mean,
that's
I
great.
think that would be an excellent idea, Mandy, if you could investigate and report to us at the next meeting as to what you find out.
Okay.
David, the other David had his hand up.
Yeah, I wanted to say, I just wanted to keep going with the, with the leaf thing. because we're sort of closer than we've been in a while, because we've gotten the attention of a lot of people with, you know, trying to solve this problem of leaves in the street. And so I think a lot of people are not averse to doing it, and I don't think it's really that costly a change. In fact, it would probably save the village money by like starting some kind of, and Amber, maybe you've heard about this, starting some kind of project where we're using lots more bags. It's not just zero-sum project, but a lot more bags, a lot more leaf mulching, a lot more communication with the lawn care company to sort of reduce all these piles of leaves. You know, a lot of people go crazy, especially Stuart Teekert, about, and justifiably so, with the leaves just running into the storm drains and clogging them up and going out into the Sound, taking all this crap. And, you know, we've been talking about this for years, since I've been on this committee. But I think that, I mean, we have agreement from Public Works. You know, we have agreement from pretty much everybody that it's a really good idea to do. And it's really beneficial in a lot of different ways. It makes the village much more sustainable. And it takes away problems like parking and, you know, stuff like that too. And I really like that as a goal that we can, I mean, really do it. That along with finally, establishing rules for all lawn care companies to start moving away from mowers and making it sort of mandatory. And I think that it's really overdue, because, you know, those of you who are new to the village, you must have already been driven crazy from all the blowers. And we've put together programs showing how unhealthy they are. And there's no reason for them to keep doing this. There's no reason. It's just that there's a lot of inertia that we just can't seem to kind of keep going past a certain point. And they're doing it down in the town of Mamaroneck, and they're really much more proactive and they're collaborative there. And they've really invited us to join it, but I think that's probably, we can't do it bureaucratically somehow. It seems like there are too many obstacles to do that, but we could do that. They said that they should register. They plan on making sure that anybody doing any lawn care companies will register with the village, with Larchmont, town of Mamaroneck, and that's their permit. And so then they're sort of under control of the town to a certain extent. And so they can kind of tell them, well, we're not going to allow you to have gas blowers. We'll maybe move to electric blowers. We'll maybe ask you to make sure that you give the homeowners the option of mulching the leaves into the garden and things like that. But these are very concrete things that we can do as goals. And just think if as a committee we were able to do this in a year, I mean, it would be really great. We would be up there with what they're doing down south of us in Larchmont, and it would be like really concrete. I don't think it'll be that difficult, Dan and Amber. It seems to me that we have great people who work for the village. We have the Tony in Public Works is like really amenable to working on these things. And I think those would be like really decent goals also. But that's my thing. I mean, that's my.
But so David, what you're suggesting is a variety of things. It sounds like number one is a concept, the fundamental concept of registering lawn care companies and making them comply with certain procedures, certain practices, or at least making those practices available to their customers, such as mulching the leaves as opposed to putting them in the street to be collected. So that will be one thing. The other thing is, I'm not 100% sure about the idea of bags, but is that a plus or a minus?
It's a plus. So why would it be a minus? It's a plus. Do you mean as far as economics go?
Well, I mean, I'm just wondering whether, you know, we, on the one hand, we want to, as a community, eliminate bags. We're taxing them and making them otherwise unavailable when we go into stores. How many bags are we talking about requiring when we have everybody bag their leaves as opposed to leaving them out in the street?
Well,
I don't know
the thing
answer
is,
to that.
Well, it's not zero sum. It's not this way or the other way. It's also mulching, but it's also getting lawn care companies to take away the leaves on their own. You guys just take away the leaves. Don't leave them on the street. Actually, I do think that there's an old law in the books. Dan, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that we're really not even supposed to take debris out of our own properties, like leaves, and put them on the street. I don't think I think that was not ever really permitted.
David, do you happen to know what the model is that Larchmont and the town of Mamaroneck are following to get this across? And is there an opportunity for the village and this committee to join that?
Yeah, they want us to be part of this.
Right, but what is the model for getting that done?
Well, they've already put it together, and so the if you're really interested in this, you could contact Sue Odierna, who's.
I mean, I would recommend to this committee.
We do it, right? Yes. But we could do this, but we already know it. But then the problem is getting other people to buy into it. I mean, in the last time we spoke to Jerry about it, he didn't seem all that enthusiastic. I like Jerry a lot, but he didn't seem that enthusiastic about it.
Well, so you're saying that Larchmont and the town of Mamaroneck, this comes from the municipality and is a sanction?
It is, yeah, it is coming out of the collaborative, which has made the recommendation to Nancy Seligson, who
I'm not sure who that is.
She's the supervisor, the town supervisor. And she's totally bought into it. So you have a lot of people bought into that program of
and the program itself, forgive me if I'm just.
So it has to do with registering all of the lawn care companies. So it's not just a wild west of lawn care companies who just come and go. And they also have this. So it's not, so it comes down to not having to worry about, do we find the homeowners or do we find the lawn care companies? Because that's always screwed up. And so how are we going to go around and make this work? But I think that they've had a pretty good, I haven't been to a meeting for a few months now, not since the last time I attended in person. I haven't been to their Zoom meetings. They really want to share this stuff because, we're part of their community and they're part of our community.
So the good news is that they've done a lot of the legwork. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel. I think it'd be very useful, Dave, if you, for our next meeting, could give us a little bit, maybe get some materials from them that you could share with us, and we could actually see concretely what they're doing and see
I actually
if
have
any,
the materials. I could actually send it up. I could actually get digital materials and just send it all over to you, send it to you guys. It's no biggie.
Yeah,
I think so I'd be really happy to do it.
Yeah, well, I mean, why not see at least what they're doing and where we can do things collaboratively with them, which don't cost particularly they're not costing the village money, and it sounds like a lot of the stuff doesn't cost money.
No.
Then why not?
Actually, I gave a report on this a couple of meetings ago. But this is, so we have the information. So I'll digitally send it out.
So I have a question for Dan, and that is, leaf collection is a very expensive proposition for the village. And maybe some of this could actually be saving money if we were able to get people to put fewer leaves out or had some kind of different protocol for dealing with them. There might be a big savings to the village in terms of the amount of time people are spending collecting leaves from the streets.
I think there's merit in what you say, David. There are opposite sides of the coin that come from a lot of other areas within the community. And, part of the board is to try and, balance it. The leaf bagging in Washingtonville, which is a pilot project, has been moderately successful. There are issues with it, but it's been sporadically, sporadically good. but not universally good. And that's part of the
This is-
problem.
So tell us a little bit about the Washingtonville pilot project. I'm not sure I've heard of it.
Well, Washingtonville has very little space. It also has very few trees, but it does have leaves from the, what they do have. And so the village has given them bags, and instead of just putting them all out on the curb, which people are allowed to do allegedly the night before the, collection, as opposed to what we do is just pile them up there, for weeks. They would put them in bags, and the bags would be collected and, handled, as if, and that was, they still have to be collected by the village. And the question is, it's done more by hand because one of the reasons for doing it was it's hard to get the big equipment into Washingtonville, which has very narrow streets and very limited maneuverability. But if the bags sit there for any length of time, they rot and they break and they spill, and that's been an issue. So there are ways of solving it, but it requires a very concentrated effort, and hasn't yet been undertaken.
Dan, in your neighborhood, and Dave Finch suggested this a couple of years ago, but it always sounded pretty good to do a pilot project there, because you would think that there would be quite a few of your neighbors who would buy into this idea, who would say, yeah, let's not just have leaves piled everywhere, let's put in bags. And there are a lot of people in the neighborhood who would also maybe contribute monetarily to this idea by also buying bags, who knows? But if we can just start it in one place even, and then let it migrate around the village. I think when we started our recycling programs with newspapers and bottles, I think that probably took a while to get going. And then it finally got going. It's not even law, but it's like done by just general agreement, and people like put that stuff out. I mean, they do it. It seems to me that it could be just sort of another model of taking care of your stuff. But again, it doesn't have to be just bags. It could be like another of several different things. Anyway, I think that would be a decent goal to look at, to modify, change, mitigate, do whatever. And any progress is progress. So I think that would be a good goal. And I think the blowers deal is a really good goal, because it just drives people nuts. And it's really unhealthy.
What about getting the bags sponsored so that people aren't having I don't know, when I moved here, I was told that we needed to buy bags. I don't know who told me, but I didn't even know about the piling on the streets. And aside from the piling on the streets, that it rips up the asphalt, I'm not really sure it's a great idea, because my street already has enough holes in it as it is. But that scraping tool they use, whatever it is. But anyway, my point is, why don't we try to get the bags sponsored and give them out at an event? I feel like things that the committee could do is kind of try to attack the low-hanging fruit, people who might care generally, like a resident that might care, and educate them a little, give them something for free, and in the midst of trying to get the bigger picture solved. So that was my thought.
Yeah, I think a lot of people know about this stuff. I mean, it's because we have been running programs, and they sort of know, and you can call up right now the police if you see blowers, but it's still it's like, who wants to really keep doing that stuff?
Yeah,
but that's a great idea too, Mandy. If you want to get going on that would be,
bag sponsorship, I could try.
that would be like a pretty amazing thing. And again, it wouldn't have to be 1 million bags. It would just be like a start, but darn, that would be really nice.
I mean, they can't be that expensive. I mean, for a company anyway. But by the way, when I moved in, my neighbor told me, oh no one tells on anyone on this street about the leaf blowers. It was like walked in and told me, and I said, okay, thanks.
What do you mean? That's like the code? Don't say
No,
anything?
like we don't say anything on this street. I said, okay, nice to meet you. So.
Gee, you got on the wrong street, man.
I don't know. The man has lived here his entire life. So I'm not messing with anyone. I just said, whatever you want.
There you go.
I don't have a landscaper. So, but yeah. So, you know, there's always that person in the neighborhood. So I feel like it's going to be met with a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How he introduces himself to every new neighbor.
Oh, yeah. He also told me that some reason our street never loses power, and that he didn't lie about. So I will commend him.
That's a knock on wood.
Sounds like a
David,
bad novel.
Mhm.
Dave, can we keep moving either on goal?
Yep.
I mean, we sort of combined healthy yards with this goal setting, but
That's great.
Well, we have quite a number of things that we have identified as goals for next year, which is good. Anybody else before we move on to the next agenda topic?
Sorry.
Mandy?
I just have a few things. Do we have a beautification committee, or is this it? Like, is there actually a beautification committee for the Village of Mamaroneck that just help make things pretty?
There's a tree committee.
But that's not beautification.
No.
I know Harrison has one, or West Harrison. I know someone on it. I was just
No, the village does not have a quote beautification committee, yes.
okay. I was just curious. Then also, have we ever worked with any interns from the high school? Because I was thinking that it would be good to get some of the environmental kids involved, kind of like building a small army, and it's good for their resume. And maybe it could help Renee with taking the minutes, and she could just review them. I'd be happy to contact the high school if we're allowed.
There are, I know that the high school is always looking for volunteer hours. The high school encourages that. I don't know how that works in the time of COVID. It might be more of a, later in
Virtual.
2021. Yeah.
Yeah,
Or
but
virtual.
virtual, I mean, this is publicized, right? So we're not talking about any secretive things that a high school student couldn't sit in, right?
Sure.
This is,
high school
all our
students.
meetings are public and the public is allowed to listen and participate.
Okay. Two other things, and then I promise I'll be quiet. Instagram, anyone in charge of it for the committee or no? No. Are we allowed to have one? Can I make one? Can I run it?
Well,
There's,
no, Robert manages the village one, right?
well, he does Facebook. I don't know if he does Instagram.
Right, but
Mm-hmm.
There's a
Yeah.
communication liaison for the village, Robert, and I can't spell his last name, ING.
Yeah, I know
Um,
who he is. He has a daughter around my son's age. I know who he is.
yes, I would maybe communicate with him since he is actually part of the village and see if he can guide you in what he has, what he does, where he's at, and then we could look at the
Okay.
what's missing.
And then the only thing I just wanted to bring up, I read it, I don't know who's on the Facebook group, the Mamaroneck Moms and Dads group. Someone wrote a post about, I don't know how to say this, the Goyon Creek. Is that in the Village of Mamaroneck?
Yes, it
Guy-
is.
Okay, they were extremely saddened by the amount of trash. I could send you a screenshot of, it was just today they wrote it.
I saw that too, yeah. I saw it as well.
You thought, yeah. I don't know. I just took a screenshot because it seemed kind of sad. They wrote a very large post about how the wildlife seems to be like overrun with trash. And I just wanted to bring it up because it seemed important.
so
There-
that's-
there- Every spring, there is a public cleanup that includes Guyan Creek, but the trash keeps coming down.
Got it.
Is it when they do these cleanups, or is the trash categorized and, logged to know what kind of trash it is to try to figure out where it's all coming from?
No,
Okay.
it's mostly floatables and other trees that, can float, that, comes down the rivers and, when the tide moves it around through the marshes and, the other shoreline faces.
It's not coming through the sewer systems so much?
No.
Some of it may come through the storm sewers, but the storm sewers all enter into the rivers. and
Right.
directly into the harbor. So
Mhm.
one
So
way or
I-
another, it gets here.
I've actually cleaned up along Guyon Creek for several years, and first of all, a lot of it's tidal. There's also kids that go there and drink and just leave bottles, but trying to figure out where it's coming from I don't think is even realistic in terms of being able to solve a problem. It's just is endemic, and every year we have to clean it up, and hopefully it doesn't get, recontaminated too quickly.
I can say that when Westchester Sustainability Committee did a cleanup in Rye, they did actually have some fun with it rather than trying to quantify the source. They had contests for who found the weirdest thing, who found the funniest thing, and they tried to, and then do some accounting for volume, so that you can have statistics to give back to people what the successes were and what you were collecting. But try to categorize it in a way that people might find amusing because it's attention grabbing.
Green Education Center did that with their cleanup, which was fun. They told us like how many pounds or whatever. So that's a good
I mean,
idea.
the cleanups in the spring are voluntary. And so anything that will draw people out, get their attention, and maybe get them to remember it, I think is, but we're
The
never
high
gonna,
High school kids, Little Army. They
No.
need
So
friendship hours.
So it's 9 o'clock, and we have a bunch of other things on the agenda before we end the meeting, which I hope we'll do promptly by 9:30. Any final suggestions for goals for next year?
The pollinator pathways that we were discussing last time.
Okay. And how would what would the goal be? Establish them, or what would
Yeah, to
how would
establish.
we articulate the goal?
To establish some pollinator pathways. I mean, I don't, it doesn't sound like the village will be paying for seeds or anything, but whether we can,
Get them donated.
yeah.
Well, that's a great idea to donate them, to get them donated. That would be something I think that maybe you could even investigate with Con Ed. But, there is a program already, the Pollinator Pathways program, that individual homeowners have bought into. And one of our former members, Catherine Desmond, is really, really involved in it. And we can do a lot more education in the village, reaching out to people about what things to plant. It's not a difficult thing to do. And there's also, again, a lot of material, a lot of digitalized material that we can send out on that too, on pollinator pathways, because, it's not just the village's deal, but, the more people who plant some of their yard in native wildflowers and other plants, the more pollination there's going to be. Doesn't have to be the village. It could just be the citizens of the village. And actually, it exists. Some people you'll see have little signs, little sort of round symbols saying this is a pollinator. This is pollinator pathway garden. And so these are things that it exists already. The whole program exists. We just haven't, as a committee, really discussed it, but it is running. And that's something else I could send out to everyone too, because I know Catherine really well, and she's been arguing for this. And again, this is something that's been going on in these communities a lot. We've been talking about maybe turning this 7-acre piece of land over in Taylor Lane, which is village owned, and it's an old brownfield, into some kind of pollinator pathway area. But
There's I'm sorry.
Sorry.
But I think that, David, that's a great idea. I think if that's a goal, we should try to put some meat on the bones by having some concrete things that we are proposing. And if maybe you and Liam together can come up with some specific things that we can actually pursue to create these pollinator pathways. I think it'd be a great idea.
Okay, well, I'll send it out to the committee. I'll send it out to everybody because I see that Debbie's interested in it and Mandy's interested in it and Liam's interested in it and a lot of other, I know other people are too. So, and it's not a difficult thing. It doesn't cost anything. It's just an educational sort of idea. But yeah, I mean, if we could get seeds that would be donated, they're not that expensive anyway.
No, and honestly, I have a ton of seeds, and so does Catherine. I met her through, she gave me milkweed this summer for my
There you go.
campers. And by the way, there's a milkweed patch at Harbor Island Park, right along the water. There was milkweed growing just naturally by itself, and I took pictures and I wrote a letter to the mayor, but I didn't hear back from him. But I'm here now because
Yeah.
Whereabouts was that?
something. There were about like 5 or 6 stalks, and I was like, just someone don't cut it down, okay?
Where was it?
It was definitely in the summer. I could look back on my phone to see when the pictures, I have the pictures, I know where it was. But yeah, I was helping raise monarchs, so I can spot milkweed anywhere. And that's how I got to know Catherine.
Oh, you know Catherine.
I do. I spent a lot of days at her house. She needs an Instagram tour of her gardens.
Oh, yeah. So great. So that's right. That's exactly. Oh, you've done a lot of work already.
I love
Great.
her. She's amazing.
Yeah, she is.
So 2 more things just quickly that I think we might consider as goals for next year. One is actually tying in, David, with what you're saying, and that is helping the village figure out what to do with Taylor's Lane, which I know is a big issue. And Dan, I don't know if you have anything that you can say about that at the moment.
No, not at the moment. Everything has been put on hold, including discussing it.
Okay. And the other thing that we should have, I think, as a goal is helping the village finalize its comprehensive plan.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to happen anyway, but we obviously want to be involved with that.
The other thing, I don't think we've really talked about also the composting program and just, goals for that program for the next year.
Well, let's talk about that because that's actually the next thing on the agenda is you're talking about the food waste recycling?
Right. I mean, we should have specific goals for that for the coming year.
I think you're right. And let's talk for a moment about that and get an update on it. I know we got a chart showing month-to-month totals, and it looks like November's a little bit down from last year, but overall we're up. And is anybody prepared to talk about that program and what we should be doing during the coming year to promote it?
Well, I think we just follow the model that the Scarsdale people, they were successful. The ones who spoke to us, was it 2 meetings ago? I mean, we've been quite successful with the selling them on Saturday mornings. Down once they closed the recycling depot, we had 1 day on outside the regatta. I don't think we sold any to anyone in the regatta building, but there were still people coming and going, and I'd put it on Nextdoor and Facebook. So there was still some interest. And the advantage of being on Mamaroneck Ave is, you get just random people passing by and asking about it.
So is this something we want to continue doing, trying to hold events or where we are selling these food waste kits? Is that feasible? I know it's been successful in the past, but maybe query whether in the winter and with the reduced availability of village assistance, maybe is that something we can continue to do and want to continue to do?
I would think that general education, continuing to have village signs, continuing to have, a public interest without a specific definition, because I find those volunteer situations quite challenging to ever attend personally. But I think if a goal could be continued education and publicity for the public and continued efforts to increase, participation, I would be happy with those sorts of goals. I'm not personally ambitious about having the village do pickups. I think that the high school kids are doing just fine. And I just think we need to just get more people on board.
Yeah, but sorry.
No, I think that the events where you buy the thing at the farmers markets or outside of the regatta are, in conjunction with any other kind of signage is a good idea. I think people do buy them at those events. And there's somebody there to ask questions and, provide some education at those times.
Yeah, I think it's worthwhile. And sorry, I'm getting feedback for some reason. I think the events are worthwhile, and if you sell 10 kits, that's 10 more people involved. So, and then the other thing I noticed, a lot of people were coming to buy bags. So I think that might be one issue, is people not knowing where to restock their bags, because that's not easy. It's not sort of apparent.
Yeah, that's been a problem, I think, historically.
Yeah.
Any other comments on the food waste recycling program?
Is there a goal? I mean, I guess with the budget constraints, there's not really a goal at this time to have the village do pickup. Is that correct?
Away from that?
Yeah. Okay.
In terms of the numbers.
Yeah. So we really have to get people to use the system and really beef that up, I think. And that's, I just think that's a very concrete goal that we can be working on. I'm very happy to man a booth or whatever, pretty regularly.
So Dan, so what was happening was that the public works people would bring the table and the recycling kits and all that down to wherever we were and set it up. Is that something is now considered overtime? And
if it's a weekend, the answer is yes.
yeah, okay. So we'd have to figure out some other way of doing it.
If you wanted to have a table and chair, if it's at the regatta, that probably would be relatively easy to work. But if it's elsewhere within the village, then somebody has to transport it. And, if it's a village employee on the weekend, that's overtime.
Yeah, no, okay.
Would the library be a good place to have these things set up? Is there enough traffic there to make it just worthwhile, or is that sort of off the beaten path?
I don't know. Guess we could try it and see.
See, I would have thought more people are going by the regatta, but
Yeah, I actually don't know the answer to that. The reason I ask is that my wife is on the board of the library. I'm sure they would be willing to allow us to set up something there if it's something that we wanted to do.
The library is closed right now, though, except for.
The library is closed, so that would,
That's right.
people come by and pick up books from the
Yeah, but-
outside. They can't physically go inside.
Right. Probably not the best time, maybe when it opens back up.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Do we know if the winter farmers market is going to be running in January? Is that still happening?
Yeah, it's the winter's farmers market will continue at on Harbor Island outside only, not inside, but outside. And that is going forward. But nobody will be allowed inside.
so if we had some kits and a table inside that building, have to get access to them on a Saturday morning and set them up outside by ourselves?
I don't know that you could get into the building.
Right, yeah.
I can't give you an answer to that.
Okay,
You know, the, no, I can't give you an answer to that. I don't know. If somebody is, you know, I know that when I've been down there on a Saturday morning for other activities this fall, all the doors have been locked and nobody was inside.
yeah.
But someone's working because they always open the beach.
Say again?
But someone must be working because they always
Well,
open.
yeah, but it's privately contracted.
Oh,
Farmers Market has an organization that is contracted with the village and pays a fee to the village to allow them to be outside.
but the
And
Parks
they're-
Department
and they're
opens the gates to
responsible for
the
running
beach.
everything.
Oh.
You know, there may be somebody on there, I can inquire, but I can't give you an answer. But I do know that part of the contract calls for you all to have a booth,
Right.
should you so desire it.
Yeah, well, let's figure out whether that makes sense for us, because if it does, then we should do it.
I think it makes sense. I don't know.
Okay, so moving along on the agenda, if we're finished that topic, there was a question about Hoyt Avenue. Does anybody want to speak to that issue that involves the trees taken down along the railroad track, and what we can do with MTA, either to replant them or do something with that area?
The village has been trying to get MTA to give permission. The village was going to be doing it on Bishop Street as opposed to the Hoyt Avenue side. I don't know what the status is on the Hoyt Avenue side, but I can tell you everything is stalled.
So on Bishop Street, it's stalled because the village or because of the MTA?
MTA.
Because they don't want to move forward? I guess they have
It's like
at
dealing with
least as bad
communism. It's
financial problems as we do.
it's not high on their radar scope, and it's hard to get people's attention.
Yeah, well, it sounds like if the village is having a hard time getting MTA's attention, we're going to have at least as hard a time.
The fact that if anybody wants to write letters and things like that, I think they're all helpful, and who knows? But beyond that, I don't think there's anything constructive that you're going to be able to do and get anywhere, but you're welcome to try.
So if the proposed tree law had been passed, would the MTA be able to have been permitted to cut down those trees just like they did, or would they have had to get a permit? I mean, it's too late now.
I believe they and the schools and all state government organizations are exempt.
Okay, yeah.
If it's their right of way, they probably have some extra
Well,
powers that
it's
most.
sort of like, you know, do as I say, not as I do.
Okay.
In any event, the trees are cut down, so it's a sort of a moot
The
point.
mute point, yes.
Okay, any other topics? We have a couple minutes before.
I
We need
have
to close.
one. How does anybody feel about meeting at 7 o'clock as opposed to 7:30?
Fine with me.
7:30 is better for me.
7, but we'd make it 7 to 9 rather than 7:30 to 9:30.
Yeah, I don't mind hosting it, but it would be a lot easier for me based upon my having to juggle a lot of international calls of, you know, and, you know, other activities and trying to eat in between everything. But I don't want to force it, you know, if 7:30 is what people would like, lots of committees are meeting at 7 now. 7:30 was a standard because people were, you know, coming back from work, you know, and on the train and, you know, that type of thing. And that's not going to be happening for a while.
So why don't we do this? Since Ellen is the chair and I think we ought to consult with her. Why don't we take that back to her? I don't think there's any, is there any objection of the people on the call to a 7 o'clock start time?
No.
No,
Why don't we just check with Ellen and make sure she's okay with it? I have no problem with it.
Okay. If you would relay that to her, and I'll follow up with her on that.
I can call Ellen and I'll fill her in on what happened at the meeting and I'll ask her that question specifically.
Okay.
Great. Any other business before we wrap up?
I have something.
Go ahead,
I'm
Dave.
using, I'll call it the public comment section because this was something that Stuart Teekert sent to the committee. And I think it's just worth mentioning that there was a spill, a fuel oil spill on 95 that got into, I don't know if it was the Sheldrake or it was the Mamaroneck River. And he took a picture of it and there's a boom there now on the river someplace. Not sure where, but I don't have it in front of me, of course, but he wanted our committee to just sort of like, to have it just mentioned out there. And maybe Amber, you might know about that there was a fuel spill on 95 and that there was a certain amount of pollution that was spilled into the river. And so I'm just putting it out there in the public record. And number two, he also showed a picture of debris or detritus or runoff from the ball fields, gravel runoff that was down into the on the asphalt of Harbor Island Park. And he asked the committee if they would just at least have it mentioned again to make it in the public record that this was a problem with this material, whatever it is, coming off the ball fields. So I thought it was important to just bring it out to the attention of the committee and have it stated. And since Amber, you're here, maybe you could just be made aware of it. So because you're probably going to, there's a chance, of course, that you'll probably get a notice about it from someone like Stuart. So you may as well just be forewarned.
Okay. So noted. Okay, anybody have any other comments or questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second,
Second it.
All in favor? Okay,
Thank you, David.
Thank you all for taking
Yeah,
the time
thanks,
to be here
David.
tonight.
thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful holiday.
thanks, David.
See you in
Thanks,
January.
everyone.
You all.
You.
Uh,
Bye.
Happy
Bye.
holidays, everybody.
Aye.